Okay, good afternoon. I don't see anyone on yet. I came on a few minutes early, so we'll wait until people come on at 4 o'clock. Okay, so good afternoon. Why are we not live? Oh, we are live. I'm sorry about that. Didn't realize that we were. So we came on a little early today. I might start doing that more often to give people a chance to come on. Some people were saying they missed the first few minutes, and I apologize for that. Also trying to fix the lighting issue. I put up a separate light opposed to me, so I'm hoping that helps the lighting issue for today. So in any event, a good afternoon. This is Steve Mazzacane. This is the Steve Mazzacane Podcast, and I welcome you to our final podcast of the week. Topics today, we'll talk primarily about Branford. Branford's BOE meeting last night. We did get a bunch of calls and comments on that. I also posted on Branford 7 some feedback from parents on how the hybrid model is going. We will be reviewing some of those comments. I think we have really kind of across the board people who want to go back, people want to stay with the hybrid, have good things to say, what have you. Good afternoon to those that are coming on and saying hello. It's great to see you. I did put a second light up, so I appreciate that. When it was that dark, I didn't realize it. I'm not seeing it on Facebook. I'm seeing it on a third-party site, and then it goes out to our Facebook pages and YouTube. So it looked much brighter to me, so I apologize for that. But in any event, we have the few topics we want to talk about. The Board of Ed last night, and we want to talk about some planning and zoning issues tonight that'll take place. So if you're not from Branford, this is just kind of a warning. This is a Branford-based podcast. And if you have questions or comments or things that you want to be known, let me know. And I'll try to respond to those. And if I can't respond to them, I'll make sure those questions get on to the right people. But in any event, I spent a day last night watching some of the Board of Ed meeting. I watched the rest of it today. This is our first Board of Education meeting without Shannon Sharkey as the chair. Maria Manos was also not there. So they have 7 members now, although 1 or 2 were missing last night. Most of the questions that came in about the decision for a new chair. And what happened last night was there was some disagreement on whether or not they should vote on a new chair. Some members thought they should wait until all the current members would be present. Some thought that they can have a special meeting. When people are fighting that, they say how difficult it is for a special meeting. It's not. You can do a special meeting before a regular meeting in 10 minutes. It's not. There's nothing earth-shattering about it. So, we just had, look at it this way. When Frank Carano was stepping down as chair, John Prinz wanted to be the chairman. Mike Krause ended up getting it. When the new term went in there, year whatever it was, when Shannon Sharkey came over, Prinz wanted to be chair. He did not get it. He became vice chair. So clearly this man desperately wanted to be chair. I have a cordial relationship with John Prinz. I've never said anything bad about him. I've never had an issue with him. There's nothing negative about him. He is now the chair, and he agreed last night that should the board want to change their mind, he would give that up and have another vote for that. When it came up on the Branford agenda, the item said board reconstitution. So I don't know who's doing the agenda items, but I think there were better ways to say that, like pick a new chair. But in any event, we knew John was going to be the new chair. He put his name forward. Somebody put his name forward, as was expected. Meredith Gaffney spoke up and said she wanted to put it off. Christina Cantu agreed. Another member named Chad asked to put it off as well. But there was a push to get him on there, and a vote was taken that was 2-2. He was a deciding vote, so by a 3-2 vote, he became the chair. But with the big stipulation that should there be a change in opinion, or next month or the month after they want to have a different discussion about it, they should do that. Remember, the last time we picked a chair, they all gave speeches and they basically campaigned for it. So John Prinz is your new chair. Your new vice chair is Meredith Gaffney. What does that mean? So I'm not shocked by that. We predicted Prinz would be the next chair. Not a big deal. The problem that I see on the board, and we saw a little bit of this last night, and this is it's not necessarily negative about Prinz, but Prinz is the kumbaya guy. Prinz is the everything's okay guy. He's our teachers are wonderful and our students are amazing and you're all working so hard, and that's his answer to almost every significant issue. And right now, I don't care who you are, part of it is COVID, part of it is power outages, but part of it is Hamlet, part of it is parents. This is not a kumbaya time. This is a time where there's real issues. And to put this in a simple way, to anybody who's seen The Godfather, Prinz is not a wartime consigliere. He's not a guy who can bring people together by addressing real issues. He's nice. He's a cheerleader. Last night, we're going to put that, he was clearly nervous last night. It's first time chairing. Let's give him some time to get his feet wet. And he's doing it at a very difficult time. So we want to be a little bit understanding, but I'm not sure he's going to be the long-term answer for that position. The second thing is this, and we have to start having a serious conversation about the relationship between the Board of Education and the superintendent. Because, last night we were having some were on digital, some were on phone, some were there, so they were sitting together. But we need to end this thing where the Hamlet Hernandez, who is supposed to be held accountable by the Board of Ed, is essentially sitting front and center and is running these meetings. That should not be happening. He should be answering to the board. Now, he may be a de facto member, not a voting member, but he's in there. One of the things you remember from last time when they were choosing new members. So when we have 2 vacancies before an election, the board interviews and selects people who put their name forward. The board picks their members. Hamlet has been sitting in those interviews. That's dumb. That doesn't make sense. And so the board that is supposed to be holding Hamlet accountable, right now the public discussion is very much about Hamlet's job and how long he should be in that job. And Hamlet could be sitting there asking questions or not, looking this person in the eye as they're supposed to be having an open conversation, an interview about the Board of Education, about education in town, where Hamlet's job is very much part of that discussion. If he is basically running these meetings, and let's not pretend for a second he isn't, and he's also in the interview rooms with these people that make it on that board who are supposed to hold him accountable, we have a significant conflict of interest. And so either Hamlet himself can recuse himself, or John Prinz, with his new power as chair, can create a special group to do these interviews, and it could include everybody except for Hamlet. But there has to be a better way than having the guy you're supposed to be holding accountable in your interview with you. It doesn't make any sense. You can go to Board of Educations in many other towns. The superintendent does not sit often with the Board of Ed. Some may. I haven't seen it. And here we're sitting front and center with the chairman. Have him at a different table. Make it clear to the public that he answers to the board, not run the board. There was a moment last night, and it's an amazing quote that came from one of the board members. I'm going to read it after John was appointed. And this came from, I forgot her last name. Kevin's wife. I forgot. Unfortunately, I forgot her last name. I know her. She's a friend, but she said this sentence. And now you can move forward, Hamlet, with all the decisions you've been making for the board. And my heart sank. Because in that one sentence was every single thing that parents have dreaded in Brantford. That they go to the polls every November and they vote for people on the Board of Education. And a member of that Board of Education said, and now you can move forward, Hamlet, with all of the decisions you've been making for the board. Wow. I don't know if I could even call that Freudian. It's just, wow. And that's what's happening. That's what needs to change. And that looked like it was changing under Shannon. And I don't know if we are losing that momentum that we were having or likely getting under Shannon. John Prinz, if he wants to be successful, I'll speak to you directly now. For lack of a better term, and to those with virgin ears, be careful here, but you cannot be Hamlet's bitch. You cannot be his lapdog. Your job, when you have a personality like Hamlet, is to stand up to Hamlet. I'm not making any judgment calls on if Hamlet's a good superintendent or not. But the board has to have some guts. They have to stand for something. Now, we've talked a lot on this podcast about the role of parents and some, what I would consider inappropriate behavior from parents. When you're dealing with thousands of parents, you're going to get some of those. But when we had that conversation, that was only one arm of the problems. Hamlet was one of the arms. The lack of communication was one of those arms. The militaristic way school is run is one of those arms. We can give a significant pass now because we're in COVID. And last night, actually, they did a very good job presenting the pros and cons of all the different decisions that they had to make. And one of the questions that Meredith asked, and by the way, the questions from Meredith Gaffney throughout the night were excellent. And she's the vice chair, so that was good. And she asked, what took so long to get this? And the answer was correct. You would not have had this much earlier. I have sympathy for our teachers, for administrators, and for Hamlet in this situation. There is no right answer. And so we posted earlier today on Brantford 7, what is your thoughts about the process? We'll read some of those comments and talk about them. But it was good to see, if you didn't get a chance to watch the meeting, go back and watch that presentation. It breaks down the differences between hybrid or all at home or what have you. But it was good to get those answers. And this demand for more answers, there probably wasn't an answer. There's going to be a lot of questions that are never going to be answered because nobody knows them. And Hamlet did actually a nice job at one point, asked what the delay was, and he talked about all the contracts they had to do and all the memorandums of understanding, all the changes and adjustments they had to make to get to that, while all these questions are coming in from parents. And all these questions, and what happened with parents, at one point there was a phone call that came in the public forum that said there was a list of 700 questions. So let's be honest here for a second. If you're a parent, if you're a resident, you really expect an administrator to sit down and answer 700 questions? How many of those questions could possibly be vital? And so we do have unreasonable parents. There are parents that are demanding, and what's happening in that anger and being upset with Hamlet, they're just piling on. Let's ask more, and demanding to get an answer. Hamlet didn't do anything wrong with the RTM meeting. That meeting was called by the RTM before they had Hamlet's approval or confirmation he would show up for that. In the middle of COVID, he has that right. Frank Tuhill had no right to put that out there and say, we're going to answer your questions without knowing first that Hamlet was going to come. Didn't have it. He does not have a right to speak for Hamlet. That was a massive mistake on Tuhill's part. Don't blame Hamlet for not doing that. Every individual has a right to say yes and confirm it before it goes out to the public. So I can't blame him for that. But I do want two things. I want the chairman of the board to be strong and to actually run the meetings. Hamlet doesn't run the meetings. Hamlet shouldn't be sitting front and center at the meetings, and Hamlet should not be in interviews with new members. It's completely inappropriate. It's nonsensical. To the board, and it looks like in talking to, in hearing some of the comments, it was good to hear Gaffney speak up, Cantu speak up a few times. Chad Edgar, I've never met, but he asked a few questions that were good, logical questions. I think you may have some members here that are bringing positive things to the board. Whoever they add, I believe there's 2 letters that were sent in that want to be on there. I know them. I have significant questions about one, but I won't mention them here. I'm okay with the other one. It'd be nice to get 3 or 4 more so we have a choice of people, but we want them to be strong people who are reasonable, logical, and intelligent and bring something to the table. So I don't have a problem with Prinz being chair. We always knew Prinz was going to be chair. And he did agree publicly that if there is a desire to have a vote, so if in a month or two, Meredith Gaffney or Christine, whatever it is, decide, you know what, I would rather have a process where anybody who wants to be chair can can write a letter or give a speech and make their case publicly, and then we vote. What I heard last night was Prince is open to that. And I think he could be held to that. I mean, there's nothing unreasonable about that. And he will always get to say that he was the chair of the Brantford Board of Education. Now, that's the communication aspect of it. That's the political aspect of it. Then you get to just some of these comments. Lighting is approved. Thank you very much. I put up another light, and I hope that's better. The issue is I like looking at the camera this direction. It's easier for me. I don't like looking at it the other way, so I set up a light. So we're going to go, the question that I posted 5 hours ago was for parents and guardians, what is your experience so far with the hybrid learning plan at Brantford schools? What works, what doesn't? Would you rather full-time in school or full-time online? So if you listened to the meeting last night, there were quite a few call-in people talking about this matter. And some said, can we get them back to school? Some of the things were, in one case, you had a parent talking about how one teacher online came on for 15 minutes a day and played I Spy. And then there were other teachers that have come on and spent an amazing amount of time with students online. So there doesn't seem to be any baseline for what's happening. And in talking to a few teachers today, I think that's almost by design. What they try to do in the first week or two is give teachers, who, by the way, are every different age group, different abilities when it comes to technical aspects, cameras, things of that nature, time to get their feet under them. And this has worked for students as well, because I know initially many students that first day couldn't get their Chromebooks, I believe, to work, and they had a major problem. So parents were calling up saying, what do I do? Their kid can't get on, and they said, just relax, we're taking it slow. So I think that teachers are being given some leeway, and I think it's a good idea, onto how far to push each class. What's happening is parents that are home with their first, second, third, whatever it is, are basically full-time teachers. And so the complaints that we're hearing is, okay, they're in school technically, but I have to be with them the entire time. One, kids at that age don't often pay attention well, but also working with them on problems and those issues. So, and we heard, and I want to read some of these comments because I think they're telling, and I think it's helpful to see that we really have a full gamut. And this is kind of what administrators go through. You have people that love the way it is. Here's one. It just doesn't work being a single parent and working in the morning. So these are issues she's having personally. Single parent, she works. What do you do when the kid has to stay home? I come home to my poor kids crying, not knowing how to do anything. They should pre-record the Google Meets for kids who can't get on until their parents get out of work. Okay, not a terrible idea. Interesting to take into account. I think we need to be back in school full time. I understand the hybrid is being done for safety reasons, but it's really causing a lot of stress on families, students, and teachers. My daughter has severe anxiety, so that's a problem with each individual family too. For sure, 100% full time in school. Protecting our children should always be top priority. With the unknown elements lurking, Brantford has chosen a route of choice, which gives some parents, okay, so there's one for mixed. Another one for full time. Older kids may be able to handle distance learning on the surface, but still need the mental stimulation from interacting with the teacher. So we're seeing full-time in school. We are online at the school my child goes to. It's so hard. We are thankful and commend all the educators who've been scrambling to attempt to bring some normalcy to these kids. I think what I've heard so far is the teachers are trying their best, but it's really hard. These kids from home, it's really difficult. And here's another one. Christina, full-time elementary age children struggle to fit in front of a computer all day. My kids have come home happy, no complaints about masks and being in the same room, just happy to see people, friends, teachers. It just shows how important this is for mental health. I hope full-time is in the near future. Online process seems much better than last year, and that seems to be a theme too. The online process is much better than in March and April when we started going online last year. I'd be all for the schools to start adding the 3 days. They're home back slowly, one at a time in a monthly interval, okay? Distance learning is straight trash. Okay. Westbrook is back full-time, but already had to close the high school for 3 days due to positive COVID test. And this is a friend of mine, Joe. Full-time would be ideal, but the potential disruptions throughout the school year. So you're seeing how difficult it must be. And as hard as we can be on Hamlet, and hard as we can be on the administration, to go through all of this feedback, where parents have individual issues, a single parent unable to find a sitter or to help the kid go through something, somebody with anxiety. People who want to be back full-time, people who are okay not being back full-time. And then what Westbrook went through and many other schools are going through. You're going back full-time and you're getting positive tests. So this is a nightmare scenario for the board, our administration, and Hamlet right now. Nobody wants to see sympathy for Hamlet Hernandez, but it's hard to be a reasonable person and not have some. It's hard to see these comments and think about an administrator seeing all this feedback. And they're all demanding answers. I want answers, I want answers, I want to know, I want to know, I want to know. But it's so all over the place. If every one of these comments said the same thing, it would be a different story. But at the same time, they have to look at the health aspects and what's happening in other schools. Full-time in school. Next comment. I definitely would be uncomfortable with all students being full-time. Full-time or at least 4 days a week. Full-time. There's a bunch of full-times coming in here now. One just says school. Interesting comment. I am fortunate to be working from home, so I hear the interaction with my junior and eighth grader in their classes. The teachers are doing an outstanding job keeping the kids engaged. This has worked well for their kids, so that's a good one. While I agree that kids need to be back full time and that is what's best for them, I will say I think the system is much better this time around, so that's a positive. Why not highlight? So here's a good one. I want to read this comment. Why not highlight the positives? My kids are so happy to see their friends 2 days in school as they readjust back into a normal life slowly again. The teachers in Brantford are working nonstop. I get emails from my 4 kids' teachers at all hours of the day and night. Considering the situation they were handed, the teachers are all doing fantastic. They're doing the jobs of 5 people right now. Parents should not be complaining about teachers. I don't think any parents are complaining about teachers, to be honest with you. And media should not be inciting that type of discussion. I don't think we're inciting, I don't know if you're referring to us, but we didn't ask about teachers. In any event, obviously people want their kids in school. It's a better way for them to learn. Bashing the system and teachers does nothing except stressing one's out. Okay, listen, we have preached reason and logic in our approach. If we're going to be critical of the way this school has handled this, it has been the lack of communication. I'm not sitting here advocating that some administrator should have sat there answering 700 questions. But we've mentioned this before, and we've talked about other issues that have happened in town and what leadership is. And sometimes being a leader in difficult times requires getting in front of people, and even if you can't answer the question, saying that. When there's a lack of information, when there's a void, when there's a vacuum of information, that's the opportunity for nonsense to get in. That's the opportunity for the complaining to fester and grow. If someone got up and said, listen, here's what's happening at the state level, here's what we're working on now, we don't have an answer for you, we'll try to have an answer in a week, but hold off, this is what we're working on, that is 10 times better than disappearing. That is 10 times better than not answering the phone calls, not answering the emails. In fact, getting on camera or getting in public and saying that will eliminate most of those emails and most of those phone calls. So it's not bashing the process, but there's something wrong here in how it's been handled. And we see this, we gave examples last time. When power went out, Jamie Cosgrove was on camera. You got phone calls. You got email updates from town. Sean Scanlon on camera, giving you updates. Robin Comey on camera, emails, giving you, Christine Cohen all through the entire COVID, every night posted, here's the new numbers, here's what you need to know. A lot of times those updates weren't earth-shattering. They weren't incredibly informative, but that's what leadership is. And I think Shannon was trying, but at the end of the day, this is run by Hamlet. He was the person that should have been pushing this. And by the way, in other towns, they did this. Paul Freeman and Guilford did this. Got on camera, had conversations. And that's what was missing. I don't think it's bashing teachers. And when you have a lack of information and lack of somebody standing up front saying, I'm the face of this, you're going to have those problems. But overall, I feel strongly that their teachers are doing a good job. And Hamlet deserves some credit for trying to get us through this. You can see from these comments that there's stress on also. Some people want to go back, some people don't, and other schools are shutting down. So it's not an easy question. The I Spy was meant to determine what was visible to both in-person and distance learners. Makes good to me. I don't know the purpose of that. That was just somebody's comment. They came on. It may have been smart. I didn't talk to that teacher why they did it. Somebody said I have mixed feelings. Yes, better this time around. Okay. Christopher, when have school systems ever given parents as much input? It's a blessing and a curse. Uh, listen, in this comments, I have 50 comments on this question I posted 5 hours ago. And many residents, rightfully so, I asked the question, I want to know how people feel, posted their personal issues, right? Their student has X, anxiety, or they're a single parent and they have to work, or the superintendent and the school districts and the administrators have to deal with thousands of those situations. At the same time, they have to come up with a plan that is compliant with the state. The state has consistently changed. And I think every elected official will tell you this. I think our state reps will tell you this. It was frustrating for them because they heard from a million teachers that the state was constantly changing what the guidelines were. So Hamlet and the administration has to come back and say, let's keep changing, let's keep adjusting, let's try to make this perfect while parents are looking for answers. Had Hamlet taken 10 minutes twice a week, got on camera and said, guys, I don't have an answer for you yet. Here's what we're working on. Here's what we know. Here's what we don't know. You would have eliminated 90% of the questions. Because if they were nonsensical, if they were, can I use a cell phone in fourth period kind of questions, somebody's like, all right, I'll back off. So it's not about getting too much information. It's about showing leadership when there's a vacuum of information, when there's not enough. And when people don't know, that's when a leader is born. And we did not see leadership that we saw from the town during storm outages and during COVID, from our state reps during COVID, from our state senator during COVID. We saw that leadership. We didn't see it from our superintendent. That was the problem. Okay, so, I'm glad to see those comments. If you get a chance, go on Brantford 7's Facebook page. You can read many of these comments. They're all positive about the teachers. The teachers are working their ass off. They're doing the best they can. And in no way, shape, or form do we want to do anything to question the job that they're doing. John Prinz is your chair. Meredith Gaffney is your vice chair. I saw last night some reasons for hope in Meredith Gaffney and Christina Cantu and Chad Edgar. My hope for John Prinz is that maybe going from vice chair to chair, the little less kumbaya, a little less long speeches and more of let's look at facts and let's move forward and let's hold the people in the administration accountable. Listen, Board of Ed members are elected in general. Sometimes they're replacements, but they're elected. There isn't a person running for that seat before getting that seat that would have said, well, I'm here just to root for the superintendent. I'm here just to root for everybody. They all run saying we're going to hold people accountable and we're going to get the best education system we can. When you have a strong personality like Hamlet, you need a strong board. You need a strong board chair. There is a time and place for that. There's time and place for that strength. But there has to be a balance there. And we have a body that is elected by the public for that reason. And this nonsense that a lawyer got up and said that you can't answer questions in meetings, that's bullshit. That's cape crap. You're elected. You can answer anything you want. You can ask anything you want. You can't violate HIPAA laws. You can't talk about individual students. But ask. Have it. Go to a Madison Board of Ed meeting and compare. And you'll see. You don't have to hide. There's no legal limit to what you can ask. Board members, it's okay to speak up. It's okay to have a backbone. What I'm asking you all to do is have a backbone and start questioning things. Another quote that says, and now you can move forward, Hamlet, with all the decisions you've been making for the board should never be heard again. Hamlet has to justify the decisions he's making. That's fine. When there are significant questions on communication, you can ask, why were you not front and center on this? Can we fix that now? Can Hamlet now go on camera and do a live discussion once a week? Is that possible? Would it help address the issues? See, one of the benefits of me being live is that if somebody asks things that are ridiculous, the whole world knows it was ridiculous, right? So if somebody's coming after me and attacking me privately with questions, I've had people do blackmail attempts, right? I'm going to destroy you unless you do this on your camera. Fine, do it publicly. Let everybody see it. if there are parents out there who are inciting others and getting lists of 700 questions and trying to be argumentative and trying to be difficult, let them do it in a live feed with the superintendent so the world can see it. Then they'll understand it. And I'll tell you that if he gets in front of people, and maybe Prinz can do this with him, if he wants, I'll do it. If he starts getting in front of people on a regular basis through a crisis, the emails, the complaints, and the calls will significantly drop off. That's leadership. All right, so we're running out of time, but I do want to talk a little bit about planning and zoning tonight. Tonight we will. Last week we heard a little bit about the Stony Creek Brewery issue. That received what is essentially a letter from hell from DEEP, and basically saying it shouldn't happen. Now, planning and zoning is in a tough spot because they approved a hotel there already. This is the location of 30 units directly across from the Stony Creek Brewery, kind of right on the water, in an area that kind of floods a lot, a little higher, but the road floods a lot. I've been on the fence about that project. I think the brewery itself has to give up some of the events they have, the large music, the concerts, things of that nature to make that work. But remember, a hotel was already approved. So it's not as if nothing's going to happen there unless the Crowleys decide not to build. I don't look at the flooding as a significant issue, primarily because the Crowleys, when they built the brewery, built a road and gave kind of a right-of-way to the town to make sure emergency access can take place. So, for example, when it floods, I can drive the road they've created to get out of there over the area that it floods. So they've already worked significantly to help the community in that regard. So we have to take that into account. I don't know what this deep letter does. This letter from Department of Energy and Environmental Protection basically said no residential development should be allowed on that site. But there's already an approved hotel on that site. So it's going to be a very interesting meeting. I think there are opponents that have worked, I don't think on purpose, but have kind of put this project together with a separate project, which is the Meritoli project, which is the previous Anchor Reef. That is a very separate project. I am very much in favor of that project. And the reason I'm in favor of it, one, I want housing near the train station. But two, it makes use of the waterfront. They've come forward with 2 or 3 plans, consistently work to take feedback from planning and zoning in to make sure there is public access down there. There's a public small park picnic area. There's some mixed use with an idea of a coffee shop and maybe a spa going in there. It has become a destination that really the public doesn't use right now. And so if we can take a waterfront property and a private developer can find it in their numbers to make public space right on the water, I'm for it. So from those that are going to complain or talk about or testify in this issue, these are 2 drastically different issues. I'm on the fence on the Stony Creek Brewery one, just my opinion. On the Meritoli one, it just makes a lot more sense to me. I can understand it, and I get that we're really pulling the public space into that project. I'll be watching tonight on that the Stony Creek Brewery one, because I don't know how you get past that DEEP letter, which was bad. And they had gotten it just before the meeting, so the lawyers for that project weren't really able to address it. It'd be interesting tonight to see how they address that. We will discuss that on Monday. If anything earth-shattering happens, we'll make sure we go live either later tonight or tomorrow to talk about that. So kind of a loaded, if you didn't get a chance to watch that meeting last night, go back and do it. There were a lot of comments and there were a lot of issues, but I think the presentation that the administrators made showing the reasoning between the different levels was eye-opening and appreciated. Yes, I was asking this before Meredith Gaffney asked, how come we didn't see this sooner? I was saying it in my head, and so I'm glad she said that. But the answer was also correct. We didn't have all the answers then. Maybe a week in advance we could have had this, Hamlet said, but there were so many other things. Remember, it's not just students and teachers. It's or students and parents and teachers. It's also all the union negotiations that had to happen, all the food service negotiations that had to happen, all the other deals and contracts and busing that had to happen to make these things work. Throw on top of that 700 questions that parents were listing, and some of that got unreasonable. So I'll defend Hamlet a little bit. The communication has to get better. And I'm hoping, I saw some really good signs from our board last night, from some members who were asking real questions. And I have high hopes for Gaffney and Cantu and Edgar. And listen, there's other ones that are fine too. What it takes is one or two people to show leadership. And once that happens, how come once one or two people show leadership, the rest will follow? Will that be Prinz? Not sure. Could that be Gaffney? Kind of a little bit hopeful. We'll see. And we'll talk more about that next week as we get more information in. So in any event, thanks for joining me. It's been a pretty good week. We're talking about Madison. I know we have a bunch of new people watching from other towns. We'll continue to talk. Next week, we'll do more some state and national things as well, as I'm working to grow that audience. If you appreciate the conversation, if you appreciate tuning in, please click share. Let your friends know, let others know. You'll be doing me a favor. And until we speak again, I will see you Monday at 4 o'clock. Have a great weekend, guys.